don't even know if I'm recording or not.
Yes, remember it. Alright, click the button again to stop. You're recording right now.
It is from China, but like it's also like mainly like Hong Kong.
Oh, that looks fun up there. Look, they're dancing.
It's low-key green, but...
And I kind of like this angle.
Narrative scarcity. At a talk called Two Writers Reflect on War and Peace, renowned authors and Berkeley alumni Maxine Hong Kingston and Viet Thanh Nguyen discussed how Asian American authors and Asian American stories are often seen as representatives of their entire culture, whereas many white authors are not, as they experience narrative plentitude. Asian American stories are often overlooked, silenced, and ignored. But today, we want to tell you a story about a community. One filled with kindness, respect, care, values, struggle, and history. We want to tell you an Asian American story, a tasty story. This is an ode to the restaurants that make Chinatown what it is today. Welcome to Eating Around San Francisco Chinatown.
Before we delve into the restaurants, we want to recognize the rich history of Chinatown and its construction over the years. Chinatown came to be with the influx of Asian immigrants seeking economic opportunity in the early 1800s. Particularly, a huge surge of immigrants came in the 1850s in the height of the gold rush, seeking to establish themselves as miners and ultimately send money back to their mother countries in efforts to help their families. This proved to be difficult, for most were in debt to the people that sailed them to the United States of America. Although regarded as one of the most inclusive and welcoming countries today, America then, in the 1800s, discriminated against Chinese immigrants who were pushed into small sectors of the city. But from these sectors, they grew successful businesses, communities, and built a strong infrastructure for success. In 1882, the Chinese Exclusion Act was enforced by the 21st President of the United States, Chester A. Arthur. As more and more immigrants began to establish themselves in the States, many Americans thought they were stealing jobs, when in reality, immigrants were really the backbone of this country, bringing economic prosperity and culture in all forms. In 1906, tragedy hit San Francisco. An earthquake with a magnitude of 7.8 struck on April 18th at 5:12 a.m. Its epicenter was near the San Andreas Fault. Lasting around 45 to 60 seconds, the quake caused widespread devastation in San Francisco and its surrounding areas. Ruptured gas lines ignited fires that, due to broken water mains and breezy conditions, raged for days, consuming over 80% of the city and leaving 200,000 homeless. Despite the destruction, San Francisco swiftly began rebuilding and largely recovered within years. Chinatown was destroyed and left many immigrants homeless. Look Tin Eli, an established businessman, saw this as an opportunity to rebuild and reimagine Chinatown as we know it today. Through skilled negotiation, Look secured millions of dollars from his business partners in Hong Kong and Canton. Look also swayed Chinese merchants to hire Western Caucasian architects to sculpt the theatrical Chinatown that we know today. Their goal was to create a magical tourist destination that would placate the city's hostile establishment and rid the neighborhood of its unsavory associations.
Chinatown, known for its theatrically decorated architecture to pull in tourists, turned a community originating from racially motivated geographical segregation into a thriving community of eateries, businesses, and attractions. However, still, racially motivated violence and stereotypes remain to plague the Asian American and Chinese American communities all over the United States. On June 19, 1982, at only 27 years old, a young man named Vincent Chin was beaten to death in a hate crime outside of McDonald's in Detroit, Michigan. Fueled by economic scapegoating, which reflected a broader anti-Asian sentiment, two automotive workers who believed that people who looked like Chin had taken their jobs beat him to death after a confrontation. When in court, the justice system failed him, ruling that the perpetrators had to pay a $3,000 fine, never spending a single minute in jail for the murder of Vincent Chin. Violence has never been foreign to Asian American communities. As the world suffered from the COVID-19 pandemic, Asian American hate crimes, especially in Chinatown, rose exponentially. Like Vincent Chin, once again, the community suffered from scapegoating as American leaders like former President Donald Trump labeled the virus the China virus or the Kung flu. Today in Chinatown, when you walk down the streets, you can see murals urging people to stop Asian hate, memorializing community members like Vicha Ratnapati and highlighting the gravity of the situation. The disruption of safety and belonging that Asian American families and community members faced directly reflected the systemic injustices and prejudices. But more importantly, in moments where the community was fractured, there was a demonstrated need for institutions of solace and community. Food institutions have served as shelters of community over the years. Chinese restaurants served as gathering spaces where people came together to celebrate, mourn, or simply enjoy each other's company. In the lovely memoir, Everything I Learned in a Chinese Restaurant, author Curtis Chin touches upon the importance of these communal spaces in providing a sense of belonging and solidarity, particularly for marginalized or immigrant communities in his memoir. In the memoir, Chin describes how his father's business is a place for all people of all races to come together and meet, where political figures and theater groups can come sit and have a meal, regardless if they're black, white, or Asian, or of any race. Yet even through the tragedy and racism, Asian American communities persist, adapting to the changing times while preserving their cultural heritage. Chin's memoir explores the resilience of restaurant owners and workers, their perseverance in the face of adversity, and the role of community support in sustaining these businesses. So, to better understand Chinatown, we wanted to experience firsthand how food institutions have fostered community. So, we took a tour. Fortune cookies have always been heavily associated with Chinese cuisine in America, but their roots lie in Japanese heritage. During a wave of Asian immigration to the United States West Coast in the late 1800s and early 1900s, a Japanese immigrant named Makoto Hagiwara claimed that he was the first to begin serving the cookies in 1908 at his restaurant in San Francisco, the Golden Gate Park's Japanese Tea Garden. Around the same time, Chinese immigrant David Zhang claimed that he invented the cookie in 1918 at his restaurant in Los Angeles, the Hong Kong Noodle Company. However, regardless of whether the cookie is a Chinese or Japanese creation, it is undoubtedly a significant representation of the Asian immigrant experience in the United States. The presence of Chinese and Japanese immigrants in the United States was threatening for white Americans and laborers. One of the reasons for the deteriorating Japanese influence on the cookie, despite being the original creator and distributor, was Executive Order 9066, that forced approximately 120,000 Japanese Americans living on the West Coast into internment for the duration of World War II. This included the owners of Japanese manufacturers of the cookies who distributed to Chinese restaurants, driving Chinese restaurant owners to begin manufacturing their own cookies. The fusion of Japanese-Chinese cultures and the development of the fortune cookie did not result from a voluntary exchange of ideas, but rather emerged from the oppressive conditions they experienced. Confronting discrimination and striving to assimilate into less threatening roles within American society led to the success of both the fortune cookie and Chinese American cuisine. The fortune cookie holds special significance to San Francisco Chinatown, not just because of the legal implications caused by the creator dispute, but because it serves as a reminder of both forced and unwelcomed assimilation that the community underwent. The Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory is a narrow storefront tucked away in an alley at the heart of San Francisco's Chinatown. It was founded in 1962 by Edward Louis, a Chinese immigrant. The alleyway it's located in is reminiscent of a Hong Kong street side, with traditional Chinese flower painting, religious figurines, and banners decorating inside and out the store. They are famous for their fresh fortune cookies, which come in over 8 different flavors and colors. Tourists bust in and out of the store, sampling their famous flattened fortune cookies and leaving with bags of fresh cookies. The Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory is certainly a tourist attraction, as the majority of people we saw visiting the store were tourists. In fact, the place is so well known that even celebrities like Klay Thompson have visited, which the store has made known by framing a signed picture of him. Originally, we were planning on interviewing Kevin Chan, the store's owner, but unfortunately he was in China. Instead, we spoke with one of the ladies who was running the shop, his mother in fact, and interviewed one of the customers leaving the store.
My name's Elizabeth Dennis, and I live in Springville, Utah. I'm originally from Concord. Right, yeah. Where I'm from, there's some diversity, but it's definitely not like there's not a Chinatown or so, like, especially buying things in bulk, like, yeah, no, it's like, oh, you'll get like one fortune cookie from Panda Express or something like that. Yeah, for
sure. As Elizabeth stated, coming a long way from Utah, she really doesn't experience much cultural diversity. Specifically, she mentioned when it comes to Asian cuisine, the most diverse it gets in Utah is a fortune cookie from Panda Express. Elizabeth's visit proved Look's vision to dramatize Asian cultures to attract Westerners, which was truly a cementing full circle moment.
Very. Wait, Manny, hit a pose.
We stumbled across Garden Bakery while troubleshooting the fact that Kevin was not at the factory. Garden Bakery may be small, but is actually one of the most famous mooncake shops in Chinatown. According to their website, they have been in business for over 40 years and is located 1 block up from the Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory. What caught our eye most about this place was the bustling energy inside. There were Chinatown locals, mostly elderly, crowding around tables and eating sunflower seeds, talking, or reading magazines. The shop was run by 2 ladies, who bustled back and forth from the kitchen to the glass display, with trays of hot mooncakes and pineapple buns. As a Chinese American, specifically a Cantonese San Franciscan Chinese American, the language that we speak is one we speak with pride. It is a form of connection and bridge building. The connections we form with other people who speak our mother tongue are the ones that cannot be forged in any other way. Around every corner I traveled in Chinatown, I was greeted with a surprise and joyful exhilaration, and sometimes free food from elderly Chinese community members and business owners when I spoke to them in Cantonese. Oftentimes, America has not been the most welcoming place for immigrants, especially immigrants who do not speak English fluently. English classes, much like the ones provided by CCSF in Chinatown, for this exact purpose are necessary to climb the economic ladder. But stories are easily lost in forced translation. To speak to someone in a language that is most convenient for them is a way to say, I see you. Thus, though she can understand English, she laughed and said that she'd only speak to us in Cantonese, and we happily obliged. This conversation is a colloquial Cantonese conversation which contains sayings that sometimes do not translate. The following interview was translated to the best approximation.
Nice to meet you. 我係黃浩安。
黃厚安，黃小姐。
係啊，黃小姐。你喺呢度做幾耐啊？
做咗40幾年。
40幾年。
係啊，
好耐啊。
about 45 years。
你係唔係手整啲月餅啊？
係啊，整做嘅人咧係嘅機吸流氣個谷胸機。係 係谷落去，但係係個人包嘅，包住就人落去咧，佢有空嘅，有個谷耳機谷出嚟嘅，
係咪好多人工啊？
都唔係好多，啊，都而家快啲，以前攞嘅嘢嚟吸啊，好攰，
係啊，
而家咧就咁樣吸落去好快，
哇，所以好易
好
啲，
easy 靚啲，
哦，靚啲。
靚啲，very good。
呢個鋪頭係幾耐㗎？
好耐啊！
好耐。
45啊，40幾年啦。
係咪你開㗎？
我嘅爹哋開嘅，
你
得我自己都開咗20幾年啦。
哇！真係你好叻，整咗好靚啊！
係
好叻啊！你係呢度大？係
唔係 China？
哦，你喺 China 大
China 翻嚟到嗰度有40幾年。
40幾年過咗嚟。
係。
哦，你個爸爸都係過咗嚟。
過咗嚟。
你有冇有細路喺呢度大嘅？
有，全部喺嗰度出世嘅。
佢哋係唔係喺呢度做嘢㗎？
咩話？唔係。
佢哋
佢出邊做啊！佢讀大學，佢唔做嗰啲啦。
We ended our day in Chinatown at Han's Wonton House, a highly praised Cantonese restaurant famous for their Hong Kong-style wonton noodle soup. After talking to the manager, we learned that there are actually 2 Hans, both in Chinatown. We went to the second Hans, which was established 2 years ago. It is newer, bigger, and has more items on the menu. The first Hans, however, was established in 1972, and like Garden Bakery and the Fortune Cookie Factory, is a tiny shop reminiscent of a traditional Hong Kong alley hustle. The manager explained that some of Han's most popular dishes included the wonton noodle soup, green scallion pancakes, and various other types of noodle-wrapped savories, all of which can be seen handmade through the glass window by the restaurant's chefs. Customers who visited the store were half tourist and half local, making this restaurant's customers a hybrid of the other 2 shops we visited earlier in the trip. The dining table is a sacred place where people come together to share not just food but stories, experiences, and connections across generations and cultures. At Han's, we experienced firsthand the bonding power of the dining table as we conversed with a lively server who spoke limited English. Upon realizing that Maddi was the only person at the table who spoke Cantonese, she immediately began teaching us the Cantonese names for different utensils.
Spoon, 匙羹 筷子 chopstick.
What made this interaction significant was the genuine warmth extended to us by the worker. Despite the busy environment of the restaurant, she took the time to engage with us and share with us a piece of her language. In that moment, the language barrier dissolved, replaced by a sense of connection and understanding that transcended words alone. These are just 3 of the thousands of stories that live and flourish in the beautiful community that is San Francisco Chinatown. We followed a loving mother and a shop owner who refused to let her children work, but instead insisted that they pursue their college dream. A multi-generational family-owned business producing thousands of fortune cookies a day for tourists from afar. And the community would not be what it is without the thousands of visitors who visit Chinatown each day and make the community what it is.
And that's why there's so much value and pressure placed upon the one story.
We need to continue to ask about and share the stories from these vibrant historical communities. We cannot allow the Eurocentric history books to dictate the identities and perceptions of Asian American communities. Let Asian American communities and Asian American businesses tell their own story.